Hey everyone, how's it going? So yeah, thanks for joining us after lunch for this panel. So the title of the panel is How to Engage and Retain App Users in 2017, so very relevant to everything we've been talking about today. First of all, I think what we're going to do is just introduce the panelists. So maybe we could just start off at the far end. If you could just introduce yourself, tell us about your app, your business, your role, and a little bit about your day-to-day operations.
Okay, so my name is Marta. I come from Barcelona. I not only have an app, but I'm part of Women in Mobile, which is a community that empowers women to participate in events. So I'm very proud of being part of a panel that has a lot of women. And I'm the product manager and growth of BWOM, which is an app for women's intimate health.
Nice one.
Yeah, so I'm Sharon. I'm product director at Bloom & Wild, and if for anyone that's not heard of Bloom & Wild, that's fine. We're quite a young startup. What we do is we send flowers, and we send them through the letterbox so that people don't have to be home to receive them. Which, when I explain it like that, sounds like a slightly unusual idea. How does a flower go through a letterbox? Trust me, it works, and they come out looking beautiful on the other side. The way we get people to send those flowers is through our app or website, it's very much a digital meets physical product. It's our app engagement experience kind of goes beyond the app a lot. So yeah, it's slightly different to some of the other apps here, but no less relevant in terms of engagement and retention.
Hi guys, my name is Maria. I work for TUI Group. We're one of the biggest travel companies. I hope most of you might have heard of us. Again, I think even more complicated and complex product than the ones mentioned before. We are a vertically integrated business, so we own our own shops, we have few airplanes, few hotels, few cruise ships, and then obviously we look into how the mobile app fits in that entire ecosystem. I'm personally responsible for product as well as app marketing. So I'm looking into how can we actually commercialize the product that we have and how can we offer the best product to our customers. And as mentioned, I think hopefully a few interesting points on engagement and retention.
Hello, my name's Theo. I'm the founder of Skyscanner, which is a growth consultancy for early stage startups. We try and create a culture around growth and experimentation. Before that, I was head of growth at Akasa, which used to be called Splittable, which was a mobile app for renters to kind of manage their home. And then prior to that, I was working at Mitu, which was a sports startup, so at a mobile app. And basically, yeah. That was it.
Sounds good. So, and finally, so my name's Gary. I'm an evangelist at Branch. You're probably asking yourself what an evangelist is. Everybody does. The Americans gave me that title, so hopefully going to change it soon. But basically, I'm the first employee in the UK. I wear a lot of different hats. But in summary, Branch is a mobile deep linking platform for enhanced user experience and attribution. So we're working with some of the biggest apps in the world, namely Airbnb, Pinterest, Slack, Tinder. So it's probable if you've used any of these apps, then you've clicked on a Branch link somewhere. And we've got a suite of products that basically help you increase your retention, growth, and hopefully increase your revenue as well. So let's kick off with a nice, easy question to get things going. So Marta, we'll just start with you. So if there was one app on your phone that you had to delete today, what would be the hardest one to delete? And what is it about that app that inspires such loyalty and user engagement that it would be very tricky to delete? You couldn't live without it.
Well, I think it will be hard to delete like Google Maps, because for me, it solves me a big problem. I'm not from Barcelona. I've been living there for 15 years, but still I need to look up to an address to arrive correctly to an appointment or a meeting. And I think I can do it at home or in the office and like look it up on the desktop and just go to the address that I have to go. But in the middle of the path, I need to check that I'm right in the path and that I have to arrive on time. So that will be the hardest one because it solves me a problem. There's nothing else.
It's hard to think how you lived without these apps beforehand. You know, if you're stuck in London, how do you actually get around? So. It's true. It's a tough one.
I was going to say something very similar. I was going to go for City Mapper, so I'm not going to repeat that because that's just boring. I'm going to go for something almost as boring, which is my banking app. I'm not going to name names because that's it's neither here nor there. But it again solves a problem for me. I'm terrible at keeping track of finances and such like, and I have an incredibly busy day. So it just solves that problem by giving me quick access to something that I need to keep an eye on. And it does it in a way that presents information to me really quickly and lets me do the things that I will need to do, i.e. like send money, whatever. I think banks get a bad rep, but I think there's some really good apps out there that are really well designed with engagement in mind. And actually at Bloom & Wild, we've borrowed quite a few of the tricks and techniques that are used there, the patterns that are like almost so dull that you don't really realize they're there. And they work really well for us. So I've got a lot of respect for some of those banking apps.
Cool. So I would love to say TUI app, but let's not be biased. So Skyscanner, and why I'm an avid traveler, love traveling, so whenever I can actually get out of London and get some sun, and we know we struggle at times, I go to Skyscanner, and I think the experience is very, very intuitive, very straightforward, and it really literally gives me what I need. It gives me the lowest price for the flight to the certain destination I need, and then links me out. And because of that, and equally also business travel, it is definitely assisting in sort of what I need on a daily basis. That would be my choice.
Cool. Mine would be Flipboard. So it's just the way that I consume my content. It's the way that I get my news, ranging from like traditional news to sport to any magazines that I've got. And the reason why I think it's like, I'm so in love with it is because I invested a lot of time at the start. So the initial onboarding, they ask you to put in the magazines that you want. And so time after time, I find myself going there rather than going onto the individual apps. And so I'm kind of bought in because of that.
So they give you like a custom tailored experience.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to go in, pick what you like. They'll give you certain options. And then you get news that comes up into your feeds. And it's like that variable rewards. You don't know what's going to come up. The way that it looks as well is visually really nice. So yeah, you'll keep coming back for more and more.
Nice one. Okay, cool. So this is my favorite question to ask at these types of panels, but let's talk quickly about mobile growth and retention. So could you each tell us about a mobile campaign or a growth feature that you built into your app that you thought was going to do extremely well, but perhaps more interestingly, just like completely failed? So this is an example of that, and I guess what lessons you learned from it.
So I'm going to talk about something that it wasn't a completely fail, but it wasn't like I thought it was going to happen. So like a year ago, I attended to an event in Barcelona called Applause, and there was this keynote speaker, Irene Noriega from Zalando, talking about app indexing, which I never heard before. So she was talking about how do they use it and use cases and all that. So I began to think about how can we implement that on our app. So on Monday, I went back to the office and I said to the CTO, great, we have to do something with app indexing, but we have a problem because for have app indexing working properly, we need to have this content public. Since our content is totally personalized for every single user, we have it on the API, so it's totally private. So I told him, great, what we can do is like taking the blog we have on the website and put it inside the app. So that if any woman looks up on Google with the mobile any topic about intimate health, they are going to go to the App Store and download our app. So great. Said and done, we did that, but it didn't happen. And what we realized, on the other hand, is that users were coming back to the app because they have other things to do. Because in the very beginning, the only thing they were able to do were these Kegel exercises and hypopressives, which is quite boring. So suddenly, we have like a new feature on the app that was good for them, and they were coming back. So that was like a bad and a good news in two ways.
Okay, cool.
I'll go next. So at Bloom & Wild, we're really into technology. We do all of our app development in-house, and we're really proud of that. We're a very digital-first business, and one of our kind of, I guess, core principles is that we will do everything digital first because that's how we're different to other people in our industry. So flowers have been around forever, but we're doing it in a quite a different way. And every time we kind of question ourselves and say, right, how can we make this journey easier, simpler? How can we make it nicer for customers and remove friction and use technology to do that? And one of the things we tried out in the app was we give people discount codes as introductory offers and sometimes as retention offers. And it's obviously a very common thing to do. I'm sure anyone who works on an app has done this in some way, shape or form. And we thought, how can we make it really easy for people to redeem these discounts? Because surely if it's really easy, they'll go on and they'll buy, and then all the metrics will look how we want them to look. So what we did was we enabled people to sort of click on a link in an email, take that discount code into the app, and then go through the purchase flow with it applied. Like, they didn't have to put the code into the little box and say, add my code. We thought, brilliant, this is going to solve everything. Everyone's just going to fly through the checkout. What we found, and as part of doing this, what we did was you didn't have to use the discount code input box at all. It was all there for you. We got hundreds of calls back from customers saying, oh my God, where's my discount code? You promised me that when I clicked in this email, I'd get a discount code. I'm really upset about it. They didn't realize that it was auto applied. Again, in the email, we'd removed the code itself. We said, look, click here, go and just click the button, you'll get the discount. They were very upset that they didn't have the code, like the physical kind of printed code. So what we did was we put it back, and conversion went back up. We did the auto-apply thing, but we also gave the kind of reassurance of saying that this is what your code looks like. It's a physical thing. You're going to get it, and if you want, you can read it and write it down, and then you can put it in the box as well. And it turns out that sometimes people don't want it to be that simple. They want to do things in the old-fashioned way. And we learned a very valuable lesson there. So we still do that now. We still send our emails with a little picture that says that here's a discount code. We'll auto-apply it as well. And when they get to the app, they'll see it in the little box as a final bit of reassurance. And for us, that's working better. So don't be too clever is the message there. I think we all we're quite humbled by that one.
Nice one.
Cool. So just to sort of set the scene, the product that we sell, the life cycle or the buying cycle is more or less a year and a half. So it's slightly different product that I think certain apps might offer here. And that, again, triggers a bit of a challenges on retention. So focusing on both sides that our apps is targeting. So on one hand, it's search and book, and on the other hand, it's the entire post-booking journey. So you need to look into both. So on one hand, it's, okay, how are you going to retarget and retain a customer? And this is going from a simple no-brainer CRM. We still do it organically. But equally, we're looking and then we're exploring, obviously, the paid marketing on the app side. And that's not a surprise to any of you. And then at the same time, if you have customers who've been with us for quite a long time, obviously different customer segments, different age groups, you need to make sure that the app that you offer in destination actually solves the problem. So what have we done? And we've been working on adding a few more interesting features so that customers can use it. And then hopefully once they go next time with us on holiday, they will download the app because they will be aware of, okay, well, this is really useful. So we display simply transfer times, which is actually such a dull feature. But trust me, rather than actually have those crowds waiting in a lobby and chasing one of our reps, it's much easier if you have all the information relevant displayed in the app. And equally, we integrate recently with Google Places, so we also display Google Places. And again, hoping that these features will also engage our customers and convince them then to come back to the app. And then equally on the search and book side, we are playing and we're investigating way more native experience so that customers come straight to us, to the app rather than the other channels. Thanks.
Cool. So when working at Akasa, we basically wanted to look into how we could get the users to be engaged within the first, say, 5 days. We traditionally face the problem that most apps face, which is, on day one, people sign up and use the app, they'll enjoy it, and then after a while, they'll kind of tailor off and stop using the app. So we could use notifications, but we also wanted to create some in-app experiences as well. and we wanted to get people into the behavior of adding in costs. So this is what it is. It's to manage your home. So you would add in certain costs in relation to your home so that you can see it over time and it can be split between the people that you live with. And so what we wanted to do was, after they've done certain actions, so if they've added, say, 3 costs, we felt that we wanted to give them what is like a variable reward. So we basically created some gifts, which were quite fun. It was to our demographic, which is basically millennials. And so after you performed an action a certain amount of times, you would get this gift that comes up. And so it worked really quite well at the start. We started to see quite a few shares. But then we actually found that people would start to see the gift way, way too much. So they were starting to see this this gift that was popping up every time they wanted to use the app. And obviously they weren't too happy to see DJ Khaled gifts coming up and getting really excited. So it worked from the perspective of getting people engaged, and we started to see more and more people within those first few days becoming active. But we realized that there's a kind of cut-off point which just becomes frustrating, and so we had to take that out and kind of rework it into the app. But yeah, it worked out for engagement.
So it was a bit of an overkill if you were doing it too much. It was annoying. And so did you just tailor it down so they only saw it like 1 or 2 times, or? Yeah, so they only saw it like 1 or 2 times. Then maybe if you went and added like maybe 20 costs, you might then see another one, but not as many people are seeing those. So yeah, we just did it like 1 or 2 times that you would see it. Then you might want to come back into the app and add more costs because you don't know what's going to come. You don't know what rewards you're going to get. Don't know what experience is going to come up. So cool. Okay, let's move on to talk about engagement, product, and management. So, Marta, could you talk us through some of the retention methods that you use? How are you getting users to come back to the app? So I imagine you're relying on things like email, push notifications, etc. But what's been the most effective for you in terms of bringing people back?
So, well, from my point of view, we use push notification and emails for sure. And the most effective communication is the one you make on the moment that the user needs it. So we use these emails in order to get users end a task that they haven't ended in the app. So we help them, or rather to go back to the app and finish the task and see the value of finishing that task. So we get this deep link on the email and get them back to the app. And the most effective thing that we had was push notifications, because talking with users, they told us, well, if only I could remember to have the next session of exercises on the app, that will be very helpful. So what I did is changing the journey into the app, and while they were ending the exercises, they have this opportunity to schedule the next session, and they received the push notification, and that was multiplied by 2 the retention rate, because we weren't sending push notifications like mad for them, but it was valuable for them too. But for me, the most engaging thing is the product, and we have also have this punch on the retention, changing the user experience in the app. Because once again, talking with users, they weren't able to understand where to begin with in the app. They have a list of plans with a lot of exercises, and they were a little bit lost. So what we did was building a kind of coach that it was guiding them where to begin with. And that was an increase of the retention, but it wasn't only an increase on the retention, but it was that retention was over time still on the retention on the months. So that was very valuable for us, because those people that have given value to the product were keeping during the time. So right now I'm reading this book, Growth Hacking from Sean Ellis. So I'm in love with one of these quotes that it's in the book, that is from the group of growth from Airbnb, that says that loves brings growth and not the other way around. And I really believe in that.
So the main, sorry.
I was just going to say, I recommend that book as well. It's a very good book.
What's the name of the book again? Sorry.
Hacking Growth.
Hacking Growth, yeah.
Okay, nice one. So I guess the main takeaway from that was invest in the kind of quite an intense product onboarding. That's going to result in higher engagement with the user.
Yeah, and learning about the behavior of the user and what are the real needs they have.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. We've experimented with push notifications quite a lot, and universally the sort of generic marketing come and buy ones have failed, and we tried again and again to get them to work, and they never did. So we thought, right, what can we do? How can we make them useful for customers? Like, what do our customers actually want to be reminded of, which is really the purpose of a notification. It's a prompt. And we thought, well, okay, they've got dates when maybe they want to send flowers or they need to send a gift to somebody. And if they've ordered some, then probably they want to have an update on where that order is. And they're the two paths we took. And that's what we do with push notifications. And actually, they're great as a retention tool. They get people coming back. And there's opportunities around that to re-engage people with the product. And like, ideally for us, sell more flowers. But there's other things that we can do in the app once we've got them there.
Yeah, and I would kind of agree that in terms of notifications, they are obviously useful for reminders in certain things, but I think, and I've seen a greater impact on retention is around having a great first experience and a great onboarding, getting people to really understand what your app's about or what your product is about, and then getting them invested so that they stay over time. Because if you're sending out a notification, it's a reminder versus actually having someone, a full flow, customized, bespoke for them. So.
Cool. So on the topic of push notifications, I think this is quite an interesting subject in terms of, well, a lot of people recommend that you should really personalize them because that increases the open rates. But I guess what things can you do? I guess you can add the person's name. You can even like split test different emojis to see which ones get the highest click-through rates. I think on iOS now you can do image-rich push notifications. So did you experiment with that at all? Did you get any interesting results?
Yeah, so we've experimented with quite a lot of like push notifications over time. I'm a big fan of emojis in general. I just think they liven up conversations. They liven up like text messages and just normal text. So I love to see it. And so we wanted to experiment with it working, and we found that over time people do respond better to the emojis. They find they come into the app a little bit more. Haven't actually used the image-rich notifications just yet because I've been using Intercom, which doesn't necessarily allow that. But yeah, a lot of A/B testing to kind of find out what is the best, like emoji. I wouldn't say we've done emojis, but like which emoji is the best. But we found out that emojis work better than non-emojis.
Okay.
And that's an interesting one. I think there's a sweet spot with emojis because we've pushed that quite a lot and actually found that it's better not to have them sometimes.
Okay.
I think it probably depends on the product a lot, and clearly the emoji. I think there's some great A/B tests you could do there with like which emoji triggers which result, but yeah, it's interesting. I think you can definitely overuse them as well, which is maybe what we found. Yeah.
So nobody knows what the kind of golden emoji is in order to get someone to open a push notification? No.
Still to be tested.
There's a website that tracks live tweets that tells you like the top emojis in the world at that particular one time. It's pretty cool. If you just like type into Google like top emojis on Twitter or something like that, so you can see like the trending top emojis.
And I think SwiftKey as well did a really like in-depth study on emojis and which one is used around the world and how popular they are. So take a look at that as well.
Yeah, nice one. Cool. So Maria, I understand that the TUI app, it's been through several different design and UX itinerations. Can you tell us a bit more about what drove those decisions, and ultimately was there a certain design flow or a certain UI that increased user retention?
Sure. So I think, not a secret, we started working on a Titanium platform, and which was a platform that we developed once for both operating systems, and then we moved to the native design. And the first app we launched in the native design was end of 2015. And I think it was very, very sort of design-led app, which had amazingly sort of immersive, big, goal-oriented cards, which are, again, a great idea, which were meant to be very contextual. And the whole idea was to sort of swipe through them. But what we found out very quickly, our customers started using them as a navigation, and that was not their purpose, not even the intent. And I think we came to conclusion, also based on the feedback, different usability studies, well, we needed to change it. As customers, obviously, our most important sort of driving force behind the changes. So we did adapt to that, and we just either in some markets we launched already and just launching scrollable cards. So again, we are taking on board the relevant feedbacks we're receiving either from customers or again, either internal stakeholders. And actually we use much better uptake of the new app, ease navigation, and we're still looking into slightly changing the app as The app used to be very much focused on a post-holiday experience, and we're obviously now going into the early part of the funnel, which is sort of more inspirational, search, etc. So we will further explore how the best to kind of position the app.
Cool. So Sharon, Bloom & Wild's got quite a strong web and app presence. So could you tell us a little bit more about your deep linking strategy and what methods you're using to get users into the app from, say, different channels like email? And deep linking is quite a complicated subject, so did you find any challenges, and then what were the opportunities that you gleaned from those?
We have a website and an app, and someone earlier was mentioning that they had an app and for a long while didn't have a website, and we were actually in a similar place when we started out 4 years ago. We were app first and we were subscription first, and actually we've completely changed around the business now to be website first and single purchase first, and we still have the other two bits and they're super important. But for us, the website tends to come first in our customer journey for the obvious reason is that you don't have to download it, you go straight to it from Google, and there's perhaps less barrier to entry. But once people have been on our site and purchased, or maybe not even purchased, are at least aware of us, we absolutely want them to come and download the app because it's much sort of, it's a native experience. It's on your phone. It converts better. It's a massively powerful thing. So we put a lot of thought into how do we get people into a kind of user journey where they move from web to app. Email's a big part of it, and we work closely with Branch. They help us out with some really nice, sweet links that get from email to your app of choice. So we have Android and iOS apps. And we have people that have one or the other or neither. And for our link to direct you to the appropriate platform is really important. It just makes that journey seamless. There is no point in us sending you to the App Store if it's easier for you to go to the web. And equally, there's no point in us sending you to the web if you've downloaded our app and you're already logged in. So that part of the journey is super critical. That's kind of like housekeeping for us. I guess around more in terms of sort of strategy for how we do this, it's all about the customer journey and what customers want and what the triggers are for them to engage with us. So we think a lot about that. We speak to our customers a lot, and we kind of try and work out what the sweet spots are for when to talk to people. So we figure out if we get the when bit right, like that's absolutely critical, and then we can refine the what and how we talk to them. So we have a really, really smart CRM program where we put people into a sort of into a channel where things happen at the right time according to who they are and what they've done in their kind of Bloom and Wild story. And we continually refine it. We're very data oriented. We collect as much data as we can, and we use that to hopefully display stuff that's useful and appropriate to what people need. And we kind of follow that pattern again and again and again. We'll measure it and we'll refine it, and we make mistakes all the time. Like the discount example I was talking about earlier, we had a hypothesis that if we made something easier, people would find that journey easier, but it turned out not to be the case. It's like I think timings and segments are the big thing for us. Like not everybody wants to be contacted at the same time, and if you contact someone too soon, it can be really frustrating, and equally, if you contact them too late, you've probably missed an opportunity. So they're the key areas for us in terms of getting that right.
Cool. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to second that, actually. So event-based marketing based on behaviors, segmenting users and customers is really going to be key to creating a better experience for them.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said as well, how you were app first and then you went back to web afterwards. And in my work at Branch, I've noticed that quite a lot, especially in e-commerce with first to market with app e-commerce businesses, but then they're realizing that the web's got this fantastic discovery channel, Google search. So if you can take users to the web and then convert them to the app where it's got a higher conversion rate, then it makes a lot of sense. So it's like we're going kind of one step forward, two steps backwards in a way. So
yeah,
cool. So I think we've got a couple of minutes left just for some quick questions from the audience. So is any questions anywhere?
Can you say who you are? Yeah. Yes, hello. I'm Guillermo Escofet from Ovum. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So my question is, the perception out there is that app publishers are spending more and more of their marketing budget and resources on user engagement and retention at the expense of user acquisition. Is that something that is reflected by your own experience?
Do you guys catch that question?
Can you recap?
So I believe the question, correct me if I'm wrong, but with a lot of app publishers, with a lot of ad buyers, the focus in the past has always been on acquisition and acquiring users. But nowadays, the focus has changed to down the funnel events. So what actual actions are these users performing in the app, and does that reflect or does that affect your buying? Is that correct? Is that the correct way to repeat it?
Yeah, I just wanted to see what the share is in terms of where you're dedicating your marketing resource, both your budget and your sort of manpower. So is it increasingly on retention and engagement and retention, or is it still user acquisition? I mean, how is that the balance of power between the two is changing?
Theo, do you want to?
Okay, so I think I have seen a greater focus on retention and going in that direction rather than just user acquisition. But I think it's just about, if you are doing user acquisition, you should be tying it to an event that is going to be related to retention anyway. So a lot of the time it was just, if you're, say, buying an install ad, you would just talk about the CPI rather than the CPA or the event that they're actually doing in the app. So I think it's just people have just become smarter and more attuned to what actually matters for their business. It's quite expensive to get a new customer, but it's not that hard to just, not as expensive to, retain a customer or to resurrect a customer, So I think people are just understanding that there's more value in the retention piece as well as, and the engagement piece, as well as just the quite sexy user acquisition,
I'd agree with that. And I think for us, both are important. We probably put more effort into retention because people might correct me on this, but it feels like it's easy to acquire people, but harder to keep them. And for us, our strategy is to acquire people that we can keep. And you could acquire a bunch of people that will never come back, and that's actually not great for your business at all. For us in an e-commerce model, it's absolutely essential that people come back because we will never make profit as a business if they don't. So we acquire people that we will keep, and targeting the right people is super important. That's the acquisition part of the story. But then finding ways to get them to come back and to stay with us is the retention part. And I'd say probably in equal measure we do both. The acquisition piece is very data driven now, like to find those right people. The art of actually getting them, the sort of marketing, like putting your ads in the right place and that sort of thing, perhaps takes less time. But there's a lot of thought that goes into finding the right people to acquire. So acquiring to keep, it's a constant balance. I think you have to approach acquisition with a retention in mind, and there's plenty of places perhaps that don't do that and suffer because the two sides don't talk to each other.
And on our case, I completely agree with you, but we optimize the ads depending on the conversion of those ads, not only of the CPI, but the conversion till they buy. And if they buy, they're going to come back, because we know that the ones that buy come back more.
And I guess just from our end to add, I think again, different, probably slightly situations. So we have most of the customers either going to the even old school travel agencies in some markets, some buy mainly online on the web. And then it is a matter of, how are we going to convert them to the app users? And then if we sort of want to grow the sales channel, how are we going to acquire them? So 50%, again, focus would be there. And then obviously it will be all about, well, can we keep them within the app? Is the experience as good as expected? Are they willing to come back so that we can lock them in? So I think it's a fine balance, again, of the both, but then as well, taking angle and a view of the product, whether is the product ready, is it good enough to actually have their customers come back and willing to engage again?
Okay, cool. I think that's all we've got time for. So unfortunately, we only had one audience question, but I'm sure we'll be around for the rest of the afternoon if anyone wants to come and find us and probe us on any of the topics that we've discussed earlier on. So big thank you to all our panelists. That was awesome, some really interesting insights. And like I said, we'll be around for the rest of the day. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.